When I first saw the poster for this one, I thought it was a joke, some sort of meme, maybe. After seeing the movie, turns out perhaps the joke was on me. Let's talk about Paint. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my spoiler-free review for the new film Paint. This is in theaters right now for a limited time. You'll be able to see it very soon, I'm sure, on demand or on some sort of streaming service. But Owen Wilson stars as a Bob Ross-esque person. I mean, it's not Bob Ross, but it is. We'll get into all the details here on that. And I'm wearing my shirt for the occasion. I'm a Bob Ross fan. You're going to hear about that here in my review. No mistakes, just happy accidents. I'm not sure if that's true with this movie. This movie, I think, was potentially a mistake. So before we launch into my review of it, I want to welcome you into Dan Reviews It. Thank you for finding this video. We've got a ton of great stuff on the channel here for you to peruse. Please consider subscribing down below there. Would love to have you aboard with the subscribing. Or just like this video, comment, share, all that stuff does help the channel out, and I do certainly appreciate it. So let's get to this movie. Like I said, I saw the poster, I guess a few weeks ago, maybe a month and a half ago at this point, and I just thought this was some, fan-made art, how they do the fan-made trailers sometimes, the sequels we'd like to see or whatever. And then I learned, oh no, this is like a real thing. And then I thought he was actually playing Bob Ross. No, he's not. Owen Wilson is playing this guy called Carl Nagel. Horrible name, too, by the way. Carl Nagel. It doesn't roll off the tongue like Bob Ross. But in any event, so it is basically this hyper-realized version of Bob Ross. And so he essentially has, this hot painting show on the local Vermont PBS station. It doesn't seem to be national at any point in time in this movie. It seems to be just localized in Vermont. And all of a sudden, his show is getting a little bit long in the tooth. And so they're bringing in some other people, including this hot young star named Ambrosia, who's going to paint things a little bit differently. Carl Nagel paints the version in this movie of Happy Little Trees, and she paints, UFOs with blood coming out of them. And everyone, starts enjoying her a little bit more, and all of a sudden he's old news. And it goes from there. So I will say Ambrosia, by the way, is played by, there's some talented people in this cast, actually. Sierra Renee, who I'm unfamiliar with her, but Michaela Watkins, formerly of SNL, is here. Stephen Root, we know him from many, many things. Wendy McLennan-Covey from The Goldbergs and Reno 911, among a few other people. But anyway, I guess the biggest atrocity, there's so many things wrong with this movie. Okay, I think maybe the goal was to do some sort of like Anchorman thing, right? Anchorman was sort of, based off one or two specific newscasters in local markets, not on a national scale like Bob Ross, but anyway, they localized it to San Diego market for that movie. And it was this guy who was kind of, out of touch and whatever, a bit of a womanizer. And I have my own issues with the Anchorman movies, but to make this such an obvious kind of, I don't even know if parody is the right word, but sort of a sending up of the Bob Ross archetype, is honestly just kind of disgusting. Bob Ross, was a freaking G. Like, who doesn't love that guy? Yeah, I'm a fan. I've got the shirt. I've got the pop vinyls from Funko. I've got the Bob Ross board game. I'm a fan. I can't say I watched a lot of the guy's painting. I mean, I guess I did when I was a kid. My grandfather was a painter, so it would be on sometimes in the house, and maybe that is where I get my love for him. But everybody loves Bob Ross, right? So what they did here was make this character, who is clearly Bob Ross in a different name, but they made him this disgusting womanizer jerk-off of a person. And yeah, the character, does have a bit of an arc here that we won't go into. But at his core, he's just not a likable dude. He's really kind of disgusting. And as a result, as I was watching it, I just was astonished that somebody thought this was a good idea. It would be like, doing a Mr. Rogers movie, except instead of Tom Hanks playing Mr. Rogers, it's Seth Rogen or something, and I like Seth Rogen, so it's not a dig on him. I'm just trying to think of somebody in that sort of, the Owen Wilson, comedy kind of category, right? But Seth Rogen, and he plays him like this slovenly, drunk or something. It's like, I just feel like there's so much negativity in the world. That's why Ted Lasso is so important, right? And a lot of these things that are a bit uplifting, it seems like a cheap shot, and an unfunny one, to sort of take that route with this movie and with this character, Carl Nagel. So that may be, kind of the biggest problem in a nutshell. But in addition to that, it's not particularly funny. I think I laughed maybe at one line said by Wendy McLennan Covey. And, she's kind of hit or miss for me and things, but, she's okay here. And I got one and maybe a half a laugh from her stuff, but that was it. So it's not written particularly cleverly, like Anchorman. And again, I've got my own set of problems with that movie, but this was written and directed by Britt McAdams, who I'm not familiar with. And I think it's a guy. I don't think it's short for like Brittany or anything. I believe it's a dude, but I'm not familiar with their work. So maybe this is kind of par for the course. And this could have been. Here's the thing: even if you went this route of making him this disgusting womanizer and not aware of how much of a jerk he is and whatever, if you went that route, you could have had some sort of clever office type comedy, and not like the Office TV show, but like Devil Wears Prada, or there's a lot of Office movies that sort of go in this more biting kind of direction, and not do some kind of lazy thing here. And the rivalry is mildly interesting between Carl and Ambrosia. That's quite honestly the only reason I am not failing the movie. And believe it or not, I'm not going to fail it. But that sort of dynamic is the only thing that's remotely interesting about the movie. And then it's played so lightly. There's no, and I'm not saying you need to have a bunch of backstabbing, but just make it a little more interesting than, oh, she's stealing his spotlight. We've seen that 100 times, so that's not giving us anything new either. And another thing that really bothered me, and look, maybe this is just me because I get involved with the details of like timelines and stuff, and maybe this was done on purpose. Hard to say, but I have no idea when this is supposed to be taking place, because he is on top of this, the number one show on this PBS station for decades, but nobody has cell phones. Everybody's got an old tube TV, but they're talking about Shark Tank and Dancing with the Stars. So it's like, it's sort of current, but nobody looks current. It's just lazy writing, maybe. I don't know. Again, maybe that's on purpose. Maybe that's part of the bit, part of the comedy. I don't know. This movie is, I'm glad it did not do very well at the box office. That's why I said soon it will be available, I'm sure, for on-demand and streaming, because I think I saw it in maybe its first week, and it's already gone from the theater I went to. Next week it won't be playing there. So, here today, gone tomorrow kind of thing. Look, maybe you will get more out of this than I did. And I don't necessarily even think you have to be like a Bob Ross diehard or devotee to feel the way that I did about it. It just, the whole thing comes across as kind of lazy, and I don't necessarily think Owen Wilson was right for the part either. I get it, they were trying to do a more snarky thing, but it did not work for me really on any level. But I'll give it just a small point because of the sort of intrigue of that rivalry, that does not go anywhere near as far as it could have, or as interesting as it could have. And the gal that plays Ambrosia, like I said, I'm not familiar with her, but she did a good job. So I will leave Paint with a D. Easily one of the worst of the year, but a slight save there with it. But all right, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on Dan Reviews It. Bye.